A quarter century, episode 25. We're 25 episodes in, John. They didn't think we would make it this far. I hope you guys thought we would make it this far. I thought we'd make it this far. We're doing
The haters are furious. They're furious. They're slamming their fists in disgust, but we made it, baby. Hopefully 25 more to come, at least.
Good vibes here on this Wednesday. Geez, I don't know what day it is anymore after a Monday night game, but Cowboys fresh off of a 33-16 win over the Raiders. Fresh out of the bye week. It was so very much needed for this team. And it was funny because I was walking into the stadium with one of the beat guys, and I was telling him, I was like, dude, if they lose 55-0 today, you can't blame them. I mean, after the 12-day stretch that they had, it's how can you transition and get your mind back to football? But, man, a lot of professionals in that building, and they were able to do it. And not only were they able to pull out a win, they did it in pretty commanding fashion. A slow first quarter, which we will get into a little bit here in the first segment. But overall, on both sides of the ball, just a really impressive win over Vegas.
Yeah, 100%. This everything they've been through. It always amazes me how athletes can bounce back from tragedy and perform, so well. We've seen it a bunch of times throughout, our lifetimes. I know something my dad always brings up is Brett Favre's performance against the Raiders after his father died, where I think he had like 3 or 4 touchdowns, was throwing up Hail Mary balls, and they were getting completed, and it was one of his best games. And you see stuff like that, just amazes me what, the top tier athletes can do through tragedy and everything. And then when you get to the on the field stuff, I think the game went about as well as you could expect for the Cowboys, given the new additions and everything. They were hitting on offense. Defense was playing well. So I think it was overall a very satisfactory performance for sure.
Yeah, the first quarter, definitely interesting when the first play happens and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are not on the field. And I noticed it. I noticed it immediately on the first play. And I was like, okay, maybe they're just trying to get Tolbert and Flanoy a start on their resume. It is what it is. And then the second play, I'm like, okay, no, there's something going on here. And then the third play, they go 3 and out. I'm like, yeah, for sure. There's definitely going to have to be something addressed. Almost immediately, Cowboys PR sends out like a mass text to everybody. And I can read you the mass text regarding CD and Pickens, not injury related, coach decision. They missed some things, just out for first series. And, it's funny because they're in Vegas and there's a lot of social media rumor about them being spotted at Red Rock Casino on early Monday morning, which would have been well after.
Why are you picking the Red Rock Casino, by the way? Why are we picking up that? I think I know why.
This is 4K thinking. So the team was staying in Durango at the Durango Casino, which is, if you're not familiar with Vegas, way south of town, way out of the way of everything. Very intentional by the team to put them at Durango. Red Rock, if you kind of follow that loop highway, I forget what the name of it is. I'm not a Vegas resident. You kind of follow that loop highway up to the west side of Vegas, you'll find Red Rock, but it's still out of the way of the city, out of the way of everything. So in reality, it is the closest resort you could go to if you didn't want to do something at your team resort. Social media rumor, I have not been able to get it confirmed. I do want to make sure that that's pointed out there, but suspended on the first drive because they missed some things. And so I thought it was pretty fascinating. But let's say the story is true, which if you're asking me, I think it is. But again, no confirmation one way or another. Shout out to George Pickens, man. That was a legendary performance.
The story is true. This ain't his first time doing that shit. This ain't his first time. He handled that shit like a vet.
Yeah.
He handled it like a vet. I mean, you hear the stories about, CeeDee Lamb, potentially, getting the bubble guts, at 7 a.m., getting the bubble guts, it seemed like it might have been his first rodeo. But Pickens handled that shit like a 10-year vet. He'd been there before. I know it. He'd been there before.
It was even funnier on Tuesday during Jerry's interview. He said, I think that's the best performance I've ever seen. And everyone was like, all right. And I'm thinking about it. I was like, Jerry knew. It might really be the best performance he's ever seen. But he knows what that's about.
Jerry's like, I gotta pay him more now.
Yeah, I was like, you know what?
Anytime.
He can play through adversity. He can hang. Like, this is the guy.
Let me just say, though, the punishment of sitting out of one series, the only thing you're really punishing there is the eyes of every fan who had to watch that offense that first series. Because, sitting out 3 plays, like, is that really a punishment? Next time this potentially comes up, do you think CD and Pickens are like, hey, man, we're going to miss those first 3 plays, though. That could be – I don't want to have this fun night if I'm going to miss those first 3 plays.
And honestly, those first 3 plays, they have a lot of things that you can talk about in my eyes. It's wild how we spent, 3 games last year watching that when CD was on IR and Pickens wasn't on the team yet, obviously. It was wild that we had to sit through 3 games of that. That's my first thought. My second thought is that was Jalen Tolbert's opportunity to finally prove that he can carve a role in this offense. He got 1 target on that drive, didn't really do a whole lot with it, and that was the only target he got for the rest of the game. And so It's like, it's Jonathan Mingo time. And that drive honestly proved it to me, because in that drive, you knew you were going out there as the starter. Hey, let's lead this offense down the field, show these coaches like, yeah, CD and Pickens are great, but like we have some value as well. It didn't work out for Tolbert. It's time to move on and put Mingo on the.
And they got a couple of these, these day 2 picks that they need to just move on from. Old Schoon, the snap stealer, over here. The only thing he ever blocks is just Brevin Span Ford from playing. I haven't seen him make a successful block on the field yet. I don't understand what does he do? Like, this is something that like makes no sense to me, because Span Ford, not only is he a better blocker, he's a better after the catch threat as well. Like he creates more, he's a more dynamic receiving threat. So I don't see any positive upside to having Schoon, the snap stealer, on the field.
There was a play in the red zone where I thought about you. There was Schoon was going to the corner. Dak was rolling to his left. This was in the red zone. Schoon was going to the corner of the end zone, and he had, I think it was Javonte on a check down. There was a linebacker right in between them, and the linebacker was shading definitely toward Javonte, but if he had pushed it to Schoon would have had to make an athletic play to get up and grab it, but it would have been definitely possible. It's a catch that I think almost every other pass catcher on this team you could trust in that situation. And you could see Dak look at Schoon and check it down to Javonte. And I was like, if we're not even trusting him in those situations, then why have him on the field, especially in receiving situations? Okay, let's say you'll actually like what he's bringing from a blocking standpoint. We don't. I agree with you, John. But let's say that that's the case. Then why do you have him on the field for that receiving opportunity? Why isn't it Span Forward? He's got the 6'7" frame that can go up and grab it over a linebacker who's already shading underneath. So it's like, I don't get it either. I'm with you 100% there. But do you want to go ahead and just get Kenneth Murray out of the way too? Let's get our grievances out before we really start talking about the good things. There's a lot of them in this game.
Hey, Kenneth Murray did make a great play to cause the interception. That was a good play. That was a very good play. I cannot hate on that play. I can hate on a lot of other stuff that he does, but not that play. Not that play. So he's got, so for that play, I'll shut up for 1 week. Just because he made a play.
He had his best game. It wasn't great, but he had his best game. And it's probably because the pressure's turned on. But I want to talk about Quinnen Williams, man. And I know you've done a lot of Twitter deep diving, and this was the most exciting thing to witness, I think, going into Monday night. It was the second most thing I was looking forward to. My number one thing was how would they respond off of this tragedy, obviously. Mm-hmm. But this was number 2 for me. I love DeMarvion Overshown. Dak Prescott called him his favorite player after the game. I probably agree with him, but I was super excited to see what Quinnen Williams brought to the field. What did you see, John?
Hey, did you see that stance? You see that stance? He changed it up. He went back to the white cotton days. He was more forward, but higher, a little bit more of a sprinter stance, so he was able to get off the ball a little bit quicker. And ta-da, the pass rush production came back. He was right back winning consistently. He did a really good job attacking leverage points, whether it be the wrist or the elbow. He was working his hands well. He was moving really well. Another impressive thing I thought on multiple occasions is how well he cornered around blocks, to make pressures and to get that sack. That's not something you see a 300-plus pound guy be able to do, is corner like that. Mm-hmm. That was super duper impressive. And I'm just really excited about the possibilities that these 3 defensive tackles can give us, because as you saw, Osa Odigizua was a monster as well, because he was opened up with more one-on-one opportunities, especially because the Cowboys were playing a little bit more of, 5-man fronts. They were playing a little bit. I saw them play some bear fronts with 2 in the B gap, 1 head up over the nose. And I saw some under fronts where they had 4 down with, someone like Easy on the outside playing kind of the weak side edge defender. So there was a lot of really positive things to take, not something that, I say too much about Flus, but I did like the possibilities that were brought up in that game. And I just hope he keeps furthering them more against teams like the Eagles.
Quinnen, I assume will be in the locker room tomorrow. If he is, I'm going to ask him about the stance thing, and I'm going to bring that to the show tomorrow and see what we can figure out.
What do you think about Quinnen?
So John Machota was to my left during the game, and this was third quarter. He had already had the sack and a half. I think 5 pressures by that point, and was dominating in the run game. The few times that the Raiders decided to run the ball, that was a little confusing, I think, to a certain degree. But I looked to him and I was like, it's one thing watching him on film and he's dominant, don't get me wrong, but like seeing how quick he is with your own naked eye, it's unreal. Like it's unreal seeing a defensive tackle talent like that. And we saw him in week, 5 when the Cowboys went up and played the Jets, but it was not to the level of this, just because he had way more one-on-one opportunities with Osa on the field. And as Osa progressively got better as the game went on, you started to see more one-on-one opportunities for Quinnen, especially in the run game whenever they did decide to run again. But it's unreal. And I love the player. And you asked me before the show, how has he been off the field? Phenomenal. And it was, like I said last week on the show, I thought he had some really interesting perspective about like wanting to be closer to his teammates because of the situation he walked into. But he's been great. He's smart. He gets it. He's been a natural transition in the locker room. A lot of guys have already connected with him pretty strongly. He's been good with us again, and even off the record, he's been good with us. So far, man, I can't find one negative about Quinnen Williams. He's been fantastic. In person too, he would be on an all lobby team. And if you don't know what an all lobby team, it's whenever the team's walking through the hotel lobby and you're like, who the hell is that? And there's a handful of guys on this team. Kenneth Murray's on the all lobby team, unfortunately, John. He is on the he looks like $1 million.
He looks like it. And in shorts, he's great. He looks fantastic in shorts, when they're running around in OTAs and stuff. Man, you think this guy's an all pro.
For sure. And Quinnen Williams, he's on that all lobby team too. Don't get me wrong, but it was fantastic seeing him. Is there any specific thing that you wanted to point out from the game about Quinnen? I just definitely wanted to address him.
No, I think I hit all the points. The stance was the really big thing, seeing him switch to a more forward stance, be able to get, off the ball a little bit quicker, get a little bit more forward momentum.
Yeah.
The handwork is so impressive. The footwork, the ability to root his base against the run, his ability to reset the line of scrimmage and play on the offensive side of the line of scrimmage is so great in the run, and it makes things so much easier for the linebackers in front of him. So just really, 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 really happy and excited about what Quinnen is going to bring to this defense, because he is someone who makes a big impact outside of his own ability. He makes things easier for his teammates. And I think that's the biggest thing the Cowboys have been missing since the Micah Parsons trade, is they haven't had a defender who can make things easier for his teammates, and I think Quinnen is that type of elite defender that can do that.
And let's talk about the overall defensive impact. I mean, it wasn't just Quinnen Williams' debut. Shavon, Revel, DeMarvion Overshown, Logan Wilson, all these guys got on the field. The snap counts, which I'll pull up here while you're talking on your next thought, just so we can look at that to have as a reference. The snap counts were all over the place as far as guys getting 20, 30, 40 snaps. There weren't many that got over 40. But overall, this defense, and I want to throw Kalen Carson in the mix too, because he was the only player that played all 60 defensive snaps and looked good doing it. But this defense, is it as simple as starting with Quinnen Williams and then it just kind of has a butterfly effect from there? Or did you really see some heavy impact from, DeMarvion Overshown snaps or Revel snaps, to where you see the impact of those guys also kind of butterflying effect in other places?
I definitely think that Quinnen deserves the lion's share of the credit, but I think the others deserve a lot of credit as well. Like, I think what DeMarvion Overshown brings is just watching him next to Kenneth Murray on tape is just so stark, the contrast between their games, because Overshown, I think they're kind of ultimately similar caliber athletes. Like if you had them run a 40, do a 20-yard shuttle, run a 3-cone, I wouldn't be surprised if their times were really close together. But Overshown just triggers so much more quickly. He processes information so much faster that he's able to just get up and go and explode so quickly. And it looks like he's playing at like a different speed, when it's not really that he's faster than Kenneth Murray. It's just that his mind, his processing works so much faster than Murray. It allows him to trigger downhill on runs so quickly. All those type of things, fly sideline to sideline. When he, attacks his primary gap and then they bust the ball outside and he has to adjust to a secondary gap and be a backside chase defender. He's just so good in those areas that the Cowboys really haven't gotten from that linebacker position this entire year since he's been hurt. And to see that bring back, and to see in his first game back that he was still processing at that quick of a space, hitting his holes, being gap conscious, doing his fallback principles, all the processing stuff. He did it extremely well. I would say the only area where he struggled is sometimes against play action. He triggered too quickly, and that put him out of position to recover and relate to a receiver, match a receiver running, a shallow cross across the formation or something like that. He had a couple of those instances. But I thought overall I was very satisfied with his performance, really happy with it. And I thought that that's going to make a huge difference for this team moving forward, is having a linebacker who is not only super athletic, but has a very fast processor. He can make correct decisions quickly.
And I think playing next to a guy like Logan Wilson as time goes on will certainly help him even more in that category. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I saw you mention that on Twitter as well, John, about him biting on boots a little bit. And there was one drive where I also mentioned it on Twitter where Raiders were pushing down the field. It was in the first quarter, and they were just running boot after boot after boot. And it was throwing those linebackers to the other side, and it was just opening up Brock Bowers. I think Bowers had 2 or 3 receptions on that drive. They also had another one to Genty. But as Shadi had mentioned it after the game too, Overshown, whenever he does have a moment where his eyes lead him in another way, he said it's rare because he has the recovery speed to still get back and make the play. And he's like, that's super rare to have, because when those instincts do eventually catch up and he gets the pace of the game back down, or the instincts of the game back down after being off the field for, 11 months, that it's going to be really fun to see. And you saw the closing speed, you saw the recovery speed. I don't think you've truly seen it ramped up to what you saw like maybe on the Deshaun Watson close last year. That's the recovery speed moment from Overshown that I think back to, or even on the interception against the Giants, the pick six. But you can see that the shades are certainly there. And we saw it. We've seen it in practice a couple of times where he's just running from sideline to sideline. And it's like, okay, yeah, he's okay. But overall, I mean, this is the best the linebackers played all season. And what do you know? Overshown and Logan Wilson back into the mix. And I thought there was some really good things from Shamar James in this game, too. I thought he had arguably his best game all season. I think back to 1 or 2, but I think he was arguably his best. The one question I definitely wanted to point out, because a lot of people do have questions about it, is the guy at the bottom of that snap count, Maris Leofau. And there's been some criticism, healthy criticism from the coaches as far as him being able to diagnose his zone responsibilities, and then him maybe not being big enough to be able to attack the run between the tackles. Do you agree with that, John? And if you don't, what's kind of your evaluation?
I don't know about the big enough between the tackles, but definitely the zone responsibility stuff. His processing isn't as quick as, someone like Overshown. He kind of takes a minute, and he can guess wrong a lot as well, which if you're going to be slow and wrong, that doesn't really help us at all.
Yeah.
So I just, he's been one of the players I've been most disappointed with, because he never took advantage of the opportunities that he had this year. This was a very good opportunity with, how poor the linebacker play was in front of him, for him to really take a hold and get a definitive starting spot on this team. But he didn't do it. Now, I love the stuff he does on special teams. I think he makes a huge impact on special teams with his speed, hitting ability, physicality there. I think he does really, really good stuff. So, I'm not saying he's someone you should just, throw away like a Schoonmaker, but but I definitely am disappointed in his play on defense.
All right, let's back up to the defensive end spot. Ezraku, he got after the quarterback. James Houston did as well.
That's James Houston.
That is James Houston. The one thing that surprised me here is, again, the guy at the bottom of that snap count, Dante Fowler. That surprises me, if I'm being honest. Has he been productive? No. Like the tackles, the sacks, they have not been there. But you can feel his presence. And with the opportunity for more one-on-ones with the defensive tackles that you do have, I put Dante Fowler right behind Donovan Ezraku as a guy who would be able to take advantage of that, just because of his veteran savvy and him being able to lock in on one assignment during the game. And then as the game goes on, progressively get better against that assignment, especially against a really poor Raiders offensive line. I don't get that. I would probably flip Sam Williams and Dante Fowler. I already know you agree, John.
Oh, yeah. That's the only reason why this doesn't make sense, is because Sam Williams is above him. Because I have no idea what that dude brings to you at all. It's zero. Like, it makes zero sense to me why Sam Williams would have more snaps than Dante Fowler. Fowler at least brings you something as a pass rusher. Sam Williams, I posted this on Twitter, but he's only had 11 pass rush wins that resulted in a pressure this year. All of his other pressures came as he was either unblocked or as a cleanup / pursuit pressure.
That's crazy.
So it's just like, I just don't know what he brings to the field that is giving him such a high snap count. I don't understand it at all, but he's honestly he's in the same doghouse with me as Schoonmaker and Kenneth Murray. I just don't understand what value they really bring to the defense and why they have such a big role in the defense, but I don't get paid the big bucks. So
it could just be a situation. I mean, that's the bodies they have, but in this case, Dante Fowler should be above him as far as snap count.
If they had those switched, I think that would be the perfect kind of rotation for what the defense for the edge group that you have. I think, if Sam Williams is only out there for 11 snaps, that means there's 50 snaps that he can't hurt you.
Let's move into the secondary. Kalen Carson, again, played all 60 snaps, looked great. There were a couple times where Geno Smith tried to challenge him too, and he was able to recover and make some plays. There was one thing too where I kind of saw the butterfly effect of the defensive line and them having the improvements that they had up front, is that there were more opportunities for ball production in this game. You saw Bland just be a step too late on a couple of opportunities. They matched him up on Bowers in the second quarter, which that was really cool to see after we talked about it last week, John. And I thought Bland played really well against Bowers. And then Revel, he got his 19 snaps in, had the defensive holding, but aside from that, looked really good. According to PFF, only allowed 1 reception for 4 yards. And then the big highlight, I'll go ahead and highlight it there. 0 snaps for Kyrie Elam.
Yeah, I think that's a positive. I was really happy and satisfied with the way Shavon Revel played.
Yeah,
especially I thought he looked extremely comfortable in his press man snaps. I think he had a handful of those snaps, and he looked really well. His ability to press at the line of scrimmage, and I think that he does best when he gets the feeler out. We saw that he's handsy, but you don't need to be that handsy to feel her out. The thing that feeling a route is, and by feeling, I mean you just have one of your hands on their hip, on their shoulder pad. It's just so you can feel when they start deaccelerating, when they start accelerating, and it gives you a quicker trigger to match that deacceleration or acceleration. Whereas when he was playing off a little bit, he was a little bit slow to click and close at the top of routes a little bit. He was giving up, I think, a little bit too much cushion at times. So I think he's still a work in progress as far as his off coverage comes, but I just loved everything that he was showing, from the patience at the line of scrimmage, from his ability to play press, from his ability to match the stem, match at the route break, all of those things. And his press man snaps were, really outstanding, especially the fact that he's coming off such a big injury and hasn't practiced much.
There was one guy on this defense that has been here all season. I want to emphasize that I thought played his best game all year. I want to know who you think that might be for me, John. And if you agree.
Is it it's the secondary, I'm guessing?
Maybe, I mean.
I would say, is it going to be Malik Hooker?
It is Malik Hooker. I thought he played a fantastic game, not only in the run game, but being in areas where he should have been in pass as well. Now, granted, some of those boots, I mean, it fooled the whole defense, and I blame the back end for that too at times. But I thought he played his strongest game all season. He was quick, he was decisive, and he looked fresh. I thought that was the most important thing too. Just overall, how do you think the safeties played, and having those guys back there? I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast throughout the year. It's not going to be your best safety duo possible, but at this point in the season, you need them to at least give you competent level play. And I thought they gave you more than that in this game against the Raiders.
Yeah, I thought Malik Hooker was great. As you said, his ability to insert in the run game was fantastic. I think he showed that the value of being able to be, to give you some consistency and ability at really the third level of the defense as the single high or split safety. He's just much more comfortable in that area than the guys the Cowboys had to have to use in those situations since his injury. I thought that was a big plus for the Cowboys defense. Now it's going to be a bigger test this week going against, Devonta Smith and AJ Brown and stuff. They're going to be, even though the Eagles offense isn't really operating at a high level, in high leverage situations, they've been able to find ways to be productive through the passing game with Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. So it's going to be really key for, Hooker, especially in these high leverage situations, to be on his P's and Q's. And I think it's something that also Donovan Wilson is going to have to. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles try to attack him more consistently in those situations. I think playing him down in the box is much better, limiting his snaps deep is something that I think is wise. I thought Mark
do it.
Mark Plessy Bell.
Yeah.
Mark Plessy Bell, I thought had his best performance of the season too in limited snaps. I thought he did a lot of good things. So very satisfied with the performances that they had on the back end, but it wasn't the biggest test. We're going to get much bigger tests in that department coming forward, and that's going to be a better gauge for what this, kind of new look secondary is going to provide for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and that's kind of my last topic here on this section is, on one hand, it's the Raiders, but on the other hand, it still is a much more improved defensive effort. I mean, season low in points allowed, season low in total yards allowed, season low in pass yards and rushing yards, both categories. How do you balance your excitement between it was just the Raiders, that's a really bad football team, I think they're worse than the Jets, seeing them on the field, versus hey, this product that they put on the field is pretty fantastic, and I think it can be sustained. How do you kind of balance that? Because I'm having a little bit of trouble balancing that personally.
I think that it's not the best gauge, but I do like the principles that the Cowboys use to beat the Raiders, and I think they are something that is replicable against other teams moving forward, and it can allow them to have a lot of success, using more 5-man fronts to create one-on-one matchups for your big 3 interior guys. Mm-hmm. On offense, using more play action, just executing at a higher level, those type of things, sitting out your 2 receivers with the first 3 plays, that's obviously a really wise decision to do. Those type of things, the offensive line, continuity and playing better and getting stronger is allowing the pass protection to hold up. Dak Prescott was getting a lot of pressure those kind of last 3 or 4 weeks before the bye, with how the offensive line was, going from TJ Bass and at Brock Hoffman at center, and then bringing back Tyler Booker, bringing back Cooper Beebe, getting the continuity all back. That takes time. And I think that you're finally seeing that time start to pay dividends. And I'm hopefully going forward, when you go against a better front like the Eagles have, that they are able to sustain that progress and allow the offense to find enough success that you can keep up and potentially, steal a game against a very good team.
And speaking of that offense and that offensive line, really good team that they're going to play on Sunday at AT&T Stadium. Get a head start on looking at this Cowboys-Eagles matchup. And I want to start on the offensive line because Tyler Guyton, first time in his career, was not accounted for a pressure in that game against the Raiders. Thought he did some really good things in the run game. Bob Sturm has a really good clip that he put together of some of the plays that Tyler Guyton had against the Raiders. But you look at this Eagles defensive front, Brian Schottenheimer called it the best in the game today earlier in his presser. Jalen Phillips has added another element to that, and he's been fantastic early on. That looks like a great trade deadline acquisition for the Eagles. Where do you kind of see this matchup as far as the trenches go? Because in my opinion, this game is going to be dictated between the Dallas offensive line and the Philadelphia defensive line.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's, I think this is the most worrisome one. This is, if the Cowboys offensive line can pass this test, they can really pass any test that they're given throughout the season. I don't think Jalen Carter is going to get himself thrown out before the game. So, that's going to be a tougher test than what they faced, in week 1. And obviously adding Jalen Phillips to the foray makes it even tougher. I think this is going to be a huge gauge for Terrence Steele and Tyler Guyton. It's going to tell us a lot about how they're doing. I think one thing the Cowboys have proven this year is they have an ability to not let one dominant rusher really – they'll still make their plays, but they won't totally kill their ability to create on offense. I think Max Crosby still had a lot of success, but the Cowboys did a good job scheming around him enough that they were able to still put together a very productive offense. And I think you're going to see the same thing against Jalen Phillips this week. The thing that worries me most is the interior defensive line. If the Cowboys aren't getting that interior push and they're not able to establish that running game, how does that affect them and then them not be able to really rely on their play action passing game and stuff like that? So I think it's going to be a very interesting test. And if like I said, if the Cowboys can pass this test, then you can start really getting optimistic about what they can do down the stretch of the season.
Yeah. I mean, these next, 12 days are going to be huge in determining what this season looks like, or the 12 days following this Eagles game, because they're going to have to go Sunday night or Sunday afternoon against Eagles, Thursday against Chiefs, and then the following Thursday against the Lions. I mean, it's not going to – and those are 3 really physical football teams. You're going to be beat down within that stretch. You got to find a way to regenerate and get through it. 2-1 or even even if it's 1-2 and both of those losses are close losses, I think you should still have optimism the rest of the way. Now, if you do go 1-2 in that stretch, you're going to have to win the rest of those 4 games, like no doubt about it. But I think if you at least look like a competent team and you're competing late in those games, then it should offer optimism, at least for next year too. But back to this matchup, the secondary, Quinnen Mitchell, man, I hate that he is my favorite defensive back in the league right now, just because he has been unreal for the Eagles. And I loved him coming out of Toledo a couple of years ago. I had him as my CB1 in that draft, and he has just lived up to that expectation. You've typically seen teams take their number 1 corner and put them on George Pickens, and then double CD. That's what you've typically seen so far this year. Broncos found some success doing it even after Surtain was pulled out of the game, and you saw Chris Abrams drain on Pickens. You saw it a little bit against the Raiders, even though it's a shame to say that they even have a CB1. But this game, with so many talented guys in the secondary, not just Quinnen Mitchell, but Cooper DeJean and Andrew Makuba has played really well here in his rookie season. Where are the challenges in their secondary and how they've been able to do things?
I think attacking them is attacking the cornerback opposite Quinnen Mitchell. Adoree Jackson, I think, is quote unquote the fish you got to attack. And I think that the Cowboys can do that. They have ways of being able to create matchups with motions, bunches, stacks, and stuff. Vic Fangio is a guy who likes to run a lot of zone and stuff. Mm-hmm. You don't see his cornerbacks really shadow a ton. So I think there are ways for Cowboys to create these matchups that they want and exploit them and have a lot of success, And I think one thing that's going to be interesting is to see if George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb can be productive after the catch. We saw how important Pickens' ability to create yards after the catch was against the Raiders. And if Lamb can get into the fray and also, create some yak, I think that is a very good way to get chunk yardage against this teams, even if you're throwing short to intermediate wise, attacking the voids in between zones, those type of things. Being able to create yards after the catch would be such a boon for this offense going against the Eagles defense, in my opinion. And I also think, this is not really a Cowboys offense, Philly defense type thing, but it plays into it. Having Brandon Aubrey in a game like this, I think is very important. The fact that you basically only have to get to the 50 and you are in point scoring range, I think is extremely valuable against a defense that's as strong as as strong as the Eagles is.
Let's dive into this fan chat. Y'all already have some good comments, and if you have another one, just throw it in here, and we'll get to it. Starting from the top here, Robert DiCenzo, Quinnen reads John owning threads confirmed.
As you all should.
And that is exactly what T-Jack says. To be fair, everybody should be reading John's threads. Well, everyone except
he should not read those. He should, for his own mental health.
William Cook has an interesting topic. I see potential with this defense. I wonder if Fluce's scheme just needed better players. I mean, that's kind of been the one point of optimism that I think you could pull even from the depths of the bowels of how bad this defense has been this season. Are you buying into this?
That's the biggest thing that worries me is the Cowboys are going to play competent enough defense that Fluce is going to retain his job and be back next year.
Yeah.
That whole ethos and style of defense is so antithesis to what I personally prefer and what I think the Cowboys, personnel personally prefer. So, everybody except Kalen Carson. I think Kalen Carson really fits Eberflus's scheme actually pretty damn well. But everybody else, I think, would fit a different scheme better. But obviously better players helps. Better players makes everybody look better, no matter what scheme you have.
And this is one of the many indictments in this last sentence that Robert has here is dropping Dono deep in coverage. I mean, that's just not knowing your guys. That's not KYP. Know your personnel. That is not very KYP of Matt Eberflus. And so I think there's been a few indictments that we could get into on another day, but we've talked about them on the podcast as well toward Eberflus and just not knowing his guys. And so if he is around, you would hope that the knowledge increases over the offseason because
he's stubborn. He's way too stubborn. Too stubborn. He takes too long to change and everything. It's just not my cup of tea.
Kalen Carson's really turned a corner for T-Jack. I'll eat crow. I thought Derrick Henry ruined him. I'm with you. I thought he definitely hurt the confidence of Kalen Carson, and that shoulder was never the same last year. But before that hit, he was playing well. I thought he played fantastic against the Raiders, but Shout out to Will Steele, by the way. He put Kalen Carson on radar over the bye week, and I'm glad that he did, because a lot of people looked at number 21 on the field and saw good play because of it.
Will, he's one of the best content creators that we have in the Cowboys space. He is a phenomenal content creator, and he might be a better human being too. He's fantastic.
Absolutely. Let's see. A lot of good stuff. Appreciate everybody tuning in.
Amen. Don't worry. You know you got to leave me some time for what the fans want.
Exactly. And we got some UFC to get to as well. Yeah. Carson, Bland, and Revel could be a special group. Let's say okay.
Special.
I'm wondering how Diggs factors back into the equation here. And they have gotten comfortable doing a rotation of corners. We could go back to the snap count. They've gotten they found a comfortability rotating these guys in and out. That's probably what you're going to see the rest of the season. But I think if you're starting, a playoff game somehow, you would need to find some consistency. And what would that starting group even look like? I know it's way too early to even say that confidently. But you have Carson and Bland, who both probably play better in the slot, but you like what Bland brings you on the outside still. Revel, I think he's going to be a pretty damn good outside guy for you. It's just I'm not sure how many this secondary went from, gosh, can you find one competent corner to we might have too many to work with here.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. It kind of seems like Diggs has wore out his welcome in Dallas, so he might not get the benefit of the doubt there. He might just, stick on injured reserve for the rest of the year. Who knows? He might get the old Peyton Turner treatment, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. The Diggs at free safety stuff, I know Broadus has been really pushing that. I talked to him about it on the 105.3, and I understand why so many think it's a great idea because of his ball skills, his athleticism, his length, his size, those type of things. But I really worry about his zone awareness, and specifically when he has to coordinate with teammates in zone. And that's basically all you have to do at free safety. And he's really, really struggled in that facet at corner. And corner is a much narrower vision, and you're not, relating and coordinating with as many defenders as you would be at a free safety position. So that really worries me. So I think it's something that you have, if this is something you really want to do, you have to experiment with it in practice to see if he has the eyes, see if he has, the right awareness. He's communicating correctly. He's coordinating with his teammates correctly. So you have to see that, and he has to really prove in that area, because I'm a little bit dubious on that, but I won't throw the possibility out just because of how his ball skills and his athletic ability, and how much, if he was competent in those areas, and he does prove to be competent in those areas, he could be a very good free safety in those facets. And that's without even getting into, I know the thing that a lot of people have talked about is the tackling.
And that was going to be the point I was going to bring up, is the tackling that he's brought you, you would need way better than that at the safety position, at either safety spot.
The problem is free safety, they don't figure into the run support a lot as the deep defender, but they're your last line of defense. So if the ball carrier does somehow get out there, you want the guy to be one of your soundest tacklers, because he is the last line of defense.
Shout out to our guy. He's always in here. I need to make sure we have him.
My guy knows.
Sam Williams out there looking lost for real. Yeah, it's tough. And I expected more out of him this year. That's been one of my this is another thing I was talking about with John Machota during the game, is so many training camp stars have just not worked out this year. You think about Kyer Elam, how much love he got during camp. Sam Williams got a lot of love during camp. There was another one too. Miles Sanders got a lot of love during camp. Now, granted, I thought he played decently before he got hurt, but you thought Jaden Blue maybe had a better shot at being RB1 during camp. I mean, so many camp takes have just been not true this year. And
I wasn't there. It's because I wasn't there.
Exactly. We didn't have the right eyes. Maybe that was it. T-Jack saying, hasn't been pretty for Tyler Guyton, but I thought he played well. I thought this was his most consistent game. And you're really starting to see him stack some performances now that he's healthy, now that he's getting consistency next to him from Tyler Smith. It's going to be fun to see what his progression looks like. I had a take before the draft, and I can't remember if I brought this up on the show recently, but I had a take before he got drafted to Dallas, was that he's probably not going to be a guy you look at after the first couple of years and think, man, he was a first-round pick, but I think he will be a guy that gets a fifth-year option on his contract. And I'm holding to that take. As of right now, he has not earned the fifth-year option. Don't get me wrong, but he still has another season to prove that. But I'm also trying to stick to my take of, okay, it's going to take him a couple years to develop just because of the starting experience he came into the league with. Then you factor in the injuries that he's dealt with in the first 2 seasons. So it's fascinating to see his progression right now, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
It's so funny seeing the attitude Tyler Guyton plays with, especially after years of Tyron Smith. The flop was hilarious. I've that's one of the funniest moments I've had covering a game was that flop. It was amazing. Let's see. When are the Cowboys going to ride Flanoy more than Turpin and Tolbert? It's already happening.
Yeah,
it's very slow. It's been slow, but it's happening. I think you have a firm wide receiver 3 in Ryan Flanoy.
Yeah, I think he's proven he's kind of the opposite of Maris Liufau. He's really taken advantage of the opportunities that he's had, and it's allowed him to consistently climb the depth chart. I mean, when we came into the season, a lot of people were talking about that he could be, the guy released, if they ever sign someone to bring someone in, he was really on the fringes of the roster coming into the season in a lot of people's minds. And now he's really climbed his way up, through taking advantage of his opportunities when injuries were happening. And as you said, and I think he's proven to be a definitive number 3. And I think he's only going to get better. And I think he has the potential to grow into, a very, very successful, wide receiver 3 type for the Cowboys.
For Daniel, shout out to Sky for sure. Shout out to our guy. Let's see. Will we see Wanye Thomas again this year with IR restrictions remaining? Yeah, so there's only 2 more guys that you can bring off IR for the rest of the season. That's going to be fascinating to see get figured out. Trayvon Diggs, you would think maybe he's one of those. Wanye Thomas, you would have to think is one of those. Unless Elijah Clark just really gives you a lot on special teams and you're able to, ride him out. And then if you make the playoffs, you get 2 more activations. So that then maybe you see a Wanye Thomas. But yeah, I couldn't tell you who's going to get those 2 spots right now, Oscar. And that's going to be really interesting for this team to have to figure out. Because you have some fascinating guys still on IR. Let's see. Eagles' biggest moment of the year.
That was the best interception celebration I've ever seen.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. And it was funny because we walked off the field that day and we are like, man, I think Kyer Elam might be the answer here for a couple of years. And man, that was the peak of the roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's been down from there. What do you do with Mingo and Tolbert after this season? You probably let Tolbert walk. He's going to be a free agent. Yeah, and I think you comfortably let him walk because not only has he completely factored himself out of the receiving game, he doesn't give you a whole lot in special teams. He's been kind of your 2B returner at times. Malik Davis is starting to take some of his opportunities, though, so it's like he's not going to have a lot of value for this team moving forward. That's why I was so pro trading him before the deadline, but that's neither here nor there. Mingo, he still has 1 more year left on his rookie contract, so he'll still be around, and they should figure out a way to get him more involved next year because he has the physical tools, and I think his blocking ability, you really got to be able to try and use that because it's way better than what Tolbert's given you. It's better than what Turpin can give you at his size. I hope we see Mingo on the field in place of Tolbert here soon, because it's needed, and that's a better special teams player too.
100% agree. 100% agree.
And then last one here from Smalls HD. Feel like I'm good on seeing Turpin on off. That was another training camp take we had. Was that Turpin was going to be way more involved in the offense, and we saw in the first couple weeks. But yeah, it really hadn't gone anywhere from there. He's had some really bad 3rd down drops. I think back to Denver, and he had one in this game against the Raiders on 3rd down too. 2 really bad 3rd down drops, and you can't have that. That's how you lose confidence with Dak. And Dak is so big on crucial plays and needing to do your job on those plays. And when you don't, you're factored out. All right, John, give the people what they want.
Yes, sir, baby. We're back in it. Sumo update time. Hoshoru, we're back in it. We're back in it, baby. Ono Sato got fucking demolished yesterday by what was it? Yoshino Fuji.
Okay.
Actually, someone who we went to college with, and they've had a lot of battles through the college university sumo system. So this was one of I think they've gone against each other 8 to 10 times, and it's been really close. But Yoshino Fuji, who's one of the best up and coming Rikishi on the roster, was able to take him out of the dojo. So our boy Hashoriru is only one loss behind, but he's gonna go against Ono Sato on the last day.
Yeah.
So it's all if Hashoriru wins out, he wins the basho. It's all in his hands now. And I will say, man, after he got hankoed, where the guy jumped out of the way and he kind of was like a bull against a matador type thing. The last 4 days, he has been throwing dudes, picking them up and tossing them out of the dojo. It's been so incredibly impressive. This like 3 to 4 days stint is some of the best sumo I've seen him use. You could tell that it really pissed him off to get beat by that Henka. So he's been really, really, really dominating ever since then. So I've been super, super happy. I'm super, super excited. The Sunday's the last day, so we only got a few matches left. You just need Hashoriru to push through and get
Hashoriru.
We gotta get it. We gotta get it. If
I'll watch it with you.
Who? You guys don't want to see me if Hashoriru wins the basho next week. It's gonna be
do a live stream for it. We should just do like one quick live stream for it. We're gonna get docked for monetization, but
100%. We can do it. We can do it. Oh hell yeah! If he wins, we're
gonna get Caden on the case. See if we can live stream it just for like a quick little run.
John, the match is only like less than a minute, so it won't be a long stream, but I guarantee it will be memorable. I promise you this.
Maybe like a Twitter live stream. Maybe that's something we set up.
Yeah, we can do that.
John, I appreciate you, man. Everybody that tuned in, T-Jack, Oscar, Forever DC, Smalls HD. Who else we got? Greg Daniel, Robert, DeCenzo, appreciate you, man. Everybody that always watches but never throws a comment in, appreciate everybody for the support. We're also grinding through the season, so appreciate everybody that tunes in with our schedules. But it's been fun, and I feel like we're going to have some more fun here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to really see where this season is heading here in the next 14 days, and we'll be here through every step of it, God willing. It's been fun, though, John. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, Nick. Appreciate Caden and everybody. It's been a fun ride. And it's only just starting, baby. We're going to wait till the draft season gets here, folks. We're going to
get sicko. We're going to get sicko around. I've already found some players. And by the way, Toledo has another DB. Toledo has another one. So we're going to have some fun with some small school stuff, too.
Hey, and this year's going to be easy, baby. All we got is 2 first-round picks and then 5th rounders.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't wait.
It is funny you mentioned that because I thought about that last week, and I was like, man, I'm going to have so much more time to spend on top 50 guys rather than top 100 guys. And that's a big difference. When you can double up on top 50 rather than like really stretching it out to top 100, that makes your job a lot easier. So I'm looking forward to it. I've already kind of gotten started.
Fun times. I can't wait.
Do you have a favorite pass rusher other than Ruben Bain right now?
I don't. I know that I really like both the Texas Tech dudes. I think it's Romello Heights and David Bailey, correct?
Yep.
They both have really impressed me in the sorts. I haven't sat down and in-depthly studied anybody yet.
Yeah.
But just watching, I'll sometimes go through on slow times during PFF and I'll just like see sacks, like go through a sack reel of a player. And those guys have really intrigued me, just the way they wins, the speed, the violence with their hands. Those type of things are really, really impressive.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun with that for sure. But appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with some more preview on this Philly matchup and talk about some more things around this team. But for John and Caden that set everything up, I'm Nick. We'll see y'all next time.
Deuces.